when you see someone who seems disconnected with themselves or overly distracted or too many obstacles between them and who they say they want to connect with, can you see that straight away in the same way that you could see like the bad actor that you described at the beginning? And if so, I'm curious what you see in a friend like me, and just open the door to have you comment as you see fit. I'm really curious if you have any feedback for me.
First of all, there has to be an important distinction made between judgment and my experience of things. So to make it very clear, I do my absolute best not to judge anybody. And what is a judgment? A judgment is when you cut somebody off from their real existence and you put them in a box and you put the box away, you file it away into their head, okay? And there are certain aspects of judgment that can be helpful and beneficial, but I say that judgment is like a sharp knife. There are some uses that a sharp knife has. That's absolutely true. But when it comes to life, there's quite a few uses for a sharp knife compared to the vast majority of other things. And rarely is a sharp knife going to be involved with something that is going to be an incredible shining moment of your life. Okay, so that said, anything that I say is not from a place of judgment. It's a place of my experience and observation. So because I have worked and practiced on honing in on this, I have a very practiced skill at being able to tell whether or not somebody is engaged at and at what level they're engaged in this conversation that we're having, in this communication that we're having. And I have practiced a lot of things that draw that in closer. Okay, so in a person who is not completely there with you, there will be these thoughts that are kind of trickling around, and these thoughts, the internal eye is kind of going like this, looking around at all of these things. And even though somebody can practice to have their eyes looking at you, there will be this slight glaze over effect. And there's this whole expression called light in the eyes, and it's there is something to that. It's probably not literal. It's probably not a literal light, but it's a similar thing as what we can see in babies. You know, sometimes people describe babies as having this wisdom. It looks like they have ancient eyes or wise eyes. What it is this internal light that comes out when you are looking at what you are looking at. Instead of looking like you're looking at something, having your eyes pointed in a certain direction, and in actual reality, the internal eye, which is where your outer eyes are feeding information into, is actually pointed in perhaps 20 other places at one time. So I think to answer your question, can I notice that? Absolutely, I can notice that in somebody. As far as what does a person do to get to a place where they're not as distracted, I would say the same way that you would build up to lifting like 100 pounds of weight. You certainly don't start off with a 100-pound weight, you know. Give yourself a goal that, you know, you think is doable, and if for you that would be 10 seconds of just experiencing one thing, then just do 10 seconds until you can do more. Just build it up in reps, I would say. But I would add on to that, that this skill of being able to be completely in one place at one time, I cannot tell you the value of that. I simply cannot tell you the value of it, because it's like in an electric signal, or perhaps in this day and age, a wireless signal is going to be more understood by most people. I think how many bars are on the iPhone is a lot more common language than, you know, ohms or anything like that, or wattage these days. But when there is stuff, when there's interference, it's like going into that mall or going into that store where there's metal rafters, and all of a sudden the signal gets cut off, and so the iPhone bars start dropping down. You know, your signal starts dropping down. It's very similar in between two people. And can you still have connection? Yes, you can, but it's a low-level connection.
Well, my friend Shannon Perlow from Dayton, Ohio, asked the question: how do we help remove the junk so we can have authenticity? How do we remove the junk so we can have authenticity?
That's a very good first, or that's a very good, the best way to remove, I was going to make a joke, but I won't. The best way to remove the joke is to begin to develop an awareness for what is junk, what is not junk. You got to start there, because that single issue is so confused in most of our minds. A lot of the time, we will waste precious moments of our life thinking about something that has absolutely no value to us. And not just once, we will get obsessed with things like that. We'll fire them again and again and again. And the brain is a magnificent machine, far more beautiful, powerful, intricate than anything we've even come close to dreaming up. And the more and more that you practice something, you get better and better at it. The more you fire those kind of signals, they become second nature to us. And the unfortunate thing in a lot of our lives is that this second nature we have built up is more based around things that are junk. And when I say junk, what I mean is they do not belong to what is valuable to us. They do not belong to what is valuable to other people.
So what is some junk in your trunk that you find yourself obsessing about?
I think one of the biggest things that I have a challenge with is seeing work that really inspires me, because I will see work that is just so gorgeous and so beautiful, and there's some really amazing fashion photographers and commercial photographers whose work I just love, and I look at that, and my mind will come up, and I'll hear my mind saying things like, yeah, your work doesn't look like that, Jesh, and you got to be careful, because your work should be looking like this, and I hear judgments like that. But that's probably one of the most common things that will happen to me in that form. And what I've noticed about that is when that kind of dialogue comes up, that's rarely something for me to get excited about, and so it'll usually trigger a more discouraging feeling, and I'll feel like and at the end of the day, it goes back to value. Who is valued in the world by me going, this is so sad, I don't have this work that looks like, so-and-so's, and what does that mean? And nobody is valued there. And it's quite a sad thing when we let ourselves get stuck in that place, because here we are, this machine that has this capacity for incredible amount of value, and we're absolutely have no chance of giving it to ourselves or anybody else as long as we're in those junk kind of thoughts. So that's one thing that I have noticed in myself sometimes.
So I'm just going to start talking. Hopefully it works out between of all of us here. My question directly kind of relates to the connection to self, because I actually just got out of school for photography. I went to school in Victoria, British Columbia, and a lot of the people that I found had the least genuine ability to become photographers were the people that weren't connected to who they really are. And one of my biggest not problems, I suppose, but challenges in taking on the life of being a professional creative is tackling the things that are upstairs before talking to, and trying to build relationships to clients or to other photographers or anyone in general. And I'm just wondering, do you think that where's your time better invested? Is it better invested really searching down deep and finding your niche that you love and finding out what you actually love and then applying that? Or do you think you should mix it in with doing the things you're not as connected with, or having the conversations that that you're not as connected with? Or like in general, like where should you direct the most amount of your energy?
Yeah, so if I'm hearing your question right, Chris, you're saying, should it be focused on connecting with self or connecting with others, or is one primary? What do you think, Jesh? How would you respond to that?